Trump, Xi, they had a summit. They met. They fell in love. They solved all of the world's problems. And according to the White House, it was the greatest deal in history. So today, we're going to break down why that is completely full of shit on the Foreign Report. Let's do it. Welcome back to the Foreign Report. I'm Seena Ghaznavi. Travis Irvine is in the virtual studio today. This is your weekly geopolitics show that gives you all the details of geopolitics that are disgusting and terrible. And, you know, we try to make you smile. We try to shine a little light, bring a little joy in this joyless world we're living in right now. Make sure you sign up for our newsletter, foreignreportshow.com. You can find us on the socials. Travis, how are you? Coming in from the country of Ohio.
Absolutely. An isolated country all within itself. And we have one professional basketball team, and they only win series in 7 games. And so it's going to take 7 games for the Cavs to beat the Knicks. Bold prediction right here on a show about foreign policy. Good to see you, Seena.
It's great to be here. Great to hear that. I mean, if the Knicks win, I mean, that's a huge boon.
Honestly, if the Knicks or the Cavs win, I mean, you know, I was just in New York last week. I love New York, but I love my Cavs. It's kind of a win-win for me. So
yeah, it is. I mean, apparently you don't love New York enough.
No.
So want the Knicks to win.
Well, the homeland comes first, and my homeland is Cleveland. But it's not Cleveland, it's Ohio.
I do cheer for the Tehran hockey team. So that is.
I know you do. You go to all the games.
I pay for the subscription to the IRGC to get those live streamed. Okay, Travis, there's been a lot of talk about the Trump-Xi summit.
Yes, and could you just, for the absolute plebeians, the simpletons in the audience, What is a Xi?
Listen, we don't subscribe to the gender binary here, okay?
No.
It is fluid.
It's he, she, and G, right? Is this
the
spectrum we're working with here?
Oh boy. Look at this. This is the sound of our YouTube going down.
Uh-huh. No, or it's going up right now.
Or it's going up.
The manosphere is like, oh, there's only 3 genders, apparently. Great.
Well, I mean, they met, buddy. It's like, it's insane. I've been reading all kinds of crazy things about it. Everyone's got a think piece. Everyone's doing analysis on it. And we were going to do like a more of a typical breakdown. But then I noticed that the White House put out, and they used to call these press releases, you know, but they called it a fact sheet and about the summit. And then I was like, you know what? Let's just break down this whole thing and talk about how much they lied.
Okay. So you're telling me this White House lies on its fact sheets? Buddy.
If I may, if it was a press release, I don't think I would be doing it this way. But the fact that they called it a fact sheet, invites ridicule and criticism.
Look, it's a war, but it's not a war. It's a fact sheet, but it's not a fact sheet. I get it now. Nothing is nothing.
2 things I heard from the summit. One was she took Trump into like the Forbidden City and into this like very inner chamber of the government that they normally don't take any leaders.
The sentence sounds so exciting already. I'm getting tintillated over here.
And Jeffrey Epstein was in the room. No.
Wow. Almost his spit take.
Yeah, it's like, gotcha. No, and Trump apparently asked, like, typical Trump, does anyone else get to come in here? And she says, no, only Putin. And it's like, he wanted him to feel good, but also you got checked a little bit. And another thing, I haven't seen visual evidence of this, but a guy I follow was talking about this. This is like some nerdy analyst guy. He said that when they were seated at the table for the meal, they put Trump's seat slightly lower than Xi's seat.
Whoa.
So it's like, there's all these moves that the Chinese were doing that I find very interesting. And we'll get into more of them when we break down this fact sheet. Oh, which is called the alternative fact sheet.
Oh, there we go. Absolutely. A little Kelly Conway callback.
So I was looking at like the Council on Foreign Relations, Reuters, the Atlantic Council, all these other different, journals and stuff like that. And then, of course, we had that legal ruling from the Supreme Court that overturned all the tariffs because Trump used emergency powers to levy tariffs on everyone. So we're based on all of this stuff that we know, right? And that is generally accepted among a lot of analysts in the foreign policy space. Let's go to the first claim. Right off the bat, Travis, we've got President Trump reached consensus with President Xi Jinping on several issues that will enhance stability and confidence for business and consumers around the world. Okay. This seems like a simple enough sentence, though, don't you think?
Yes, I'm just trying to decide if it's true or not.
What I think is funny is that, yes, this is the bare minimum that they accomplished. The summit happened. They met. The markets went up because they didn't have a catastrophe. They didn't fight each other to death. That's all real. They did say some positive things about each other. There wasn't like this weird Zelensky in the Oval Office moment. That's the bar. You avert disaster. And then the market's like, you know what? I'll make money off this. Let's do it.
Right.
So this is easy, right? Easy. And the next claim. Both leaders agree Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon and called to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and agreed that no country or organization can be allowed to charge tolls. Travis, what do you know about the Strait of Hormuz right now?
Well, I know it's not open and then it is open, but it's also a very important waterway that we don't know anything about.
That's pretty much correct. Trump said Xi agreed that here's the thing. There's a lot of Trump said that Xi agreed, right?
Okay, right.
To not provide military equipment for Iran. Both sides issued language about the Strait of Hormuz that it should be open. And technically, yes, that statement was made. Here's the thing. The strait, as you just eloquently put, is closed to the U.S. and anyone that the IRGC doesn't like. But right as the summit started, Travi. And these are the moves.
All right.
Iran let some Chinese oil ships through the strait.
What? Oh, man. These first it's Lego videos, now it's moves like this. Don't play with my heart, IRGC.
Stop! No. It's like China's like, listen, just let a few through. And the other thing to keep in mind is this word military equipment. So maybe they don't send a rocket or a launching pad or weapons. But what has America done when it doesn't want to do that? We share intelligence. China could share satellite imagery, intelligence reports, cyber warfare stuff, whatever they want. That's not a missile. So they've got plenty of satellites and plenty of intelligence they could share with the IRGC. I don't know if you saw this, but like Rubio before, when he was in Air Force One, he was getting interviewed, and all he was talking about was how they want China to pressure Iran to end the war, to basically open the strait, all this stuff, end the war. Yeah. But this is existential for the Islamic Republic. Right? If they don't, it doesn't matter who comes down and says, hey, stop the war. They can only push so much. And frankly, China kind of got what they wanted. They have tons of stockpiles of oil in China, but they could always, want to shore that up. And they got the oil that they wanted. But here's the other thing. China, when Trump said all this, China didn't actually say anything as a commitment that they would fundamentally end up changing the calculus of the war in any meaningful way at all. This did nothing for the war. Just to be very clear, nothing.
Right.
Nothing came out of this. Not, oh, we'll get their enriched uranium off their hands. Oh, we'll do nothing.
That's incredible. You're telling me, so Marco Rubio straight up at the top going in, he's like, we want one thing for sure.
Yeah.
And that is China to help end the war. And they didn't get that either?
No, nothing. Let's move on. It's insane. Next point. Right below this, President Trump and President Xi confirmed their shared goal to denuclearize North Korea. Great. They are nuclearized.
Yeah.
absolutely nuked. They are testing the nukes. We talked about it on this show. They're sending the nukes out. And what just happened with Iran? They don't have a nuke yet. We're in talks about their nuclear facilities and their enrichment program, and they got bombed twice. So you think North Korea is just going to like denuclearize themselves when they are like a hermit kingdom over there? No, they're not going to do anything. And you know what else? They tested their nukes, and you know what they got for testing their nukes out? They got 2 presidential summits and a DMZ meeting.
Wow.
The United States and China have been saying that, we would love for the North Koreans to not have a nuclear weapon. Yeah, I'm sure. So would everyone else. The fact that the United States started this war, and Israel started this war, means that everyone is going to want a nuke.
Yeah.
Everyone is going to want to be a nuclear power.
It seems to be a very good deterrent to not getting bombed.
And what's interesting is that for years, the Islamic Republic used being a threshold nuclear power, so something a distance away, right? Because the supreme leader, Khamenei, which we killed the dude, which is great, thanks, but you know what? If you would have farted in front of him, he would have died. He was 86 and like riddled with disease. He would have died any day. But the fact that that guy was in power, he wasn't into the nuke stuff. He wasn't really into it. And his son, though, he's on a lot of Vyvanse, that kid. And he's a little jacked up. He's real focused on developing some nukes.
Oh, boy.
All right, next claim. And this is a fun one. This is like one of those things where people just make things up and then think it's a good thing, you know?
Mm-hmm. You mean like the entire Trump administration?
Yeah.
And everything they've been doing since they took power?
It's just par for the course here. All right, and this next one. As the cornerstone of this historic agreement, again, historic agreement, which there was no agreement of any kind. There's no paper that anyone signed of anything. President Trump and President Xi chartered 2 new institutions. Institutions!
Uh-huh.
Like a university is the FDA is an institution. They chartered 2 new institutions to optimize the bilateral economic relationship, the U.S.-China Board of Trade and the U.S.-China Board of Investment.
Ooh, those sound like important institutions.
Can I go on Indeed and apply for a job there? Can we get in there? Can we do a podcast at the U.S.-China Board of Trade building? Because it's an institution?
It's an institution.
These things don't exist. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent confirmed that to CNBC that the 2 sides would discuss, quote, a board to oversee investments in non-sensitive areas. Chartered, institutions. These words literally have no meaning anymore. There's no official international board that was created. It's literally just Xi or Trump picks up the phone or sends an email and they just talk about stuff. There was no mention, which they would have talked about in this press release, no mention of China subsidizing their industries domestically, which is what makes them have cheap labor, by the way, right? And that's what impacts American workers because, newsflash, capitalism does not care about the American worker. It cares about cheap labor. Don't tell anyone. This is a secret. Okay?
Very well kept secret. I like how you
secret.
I like because you whispered it on our podcast, no one will know.
No one will know, Travi. Mm-hmm. Okay, and so nothing about intellectual property theft. It's like, come on, what are we doing here? Nothing about that. Nothing about the flood of cheap EVs and solar panels to other countries. Look, Canada has a bunch of Chinese EVs now. Those are going to start coming down to the U.S. People are going to go up, buy them, drive them across the border. So you could talk about all the stuff you want. You could probably talk about soybeans. They're probably going to do that. That's probably what they're going to talk about, which are important. I get it. But they're not going to talk about anything of substance because at the end of the day, everything is tied to some sort of security issue. All right, next claim. Rare earths we talked about. I love that a lot of this we've covered on the show of it being like a huge issue. China will address U.S. concerns regarding supply chain shortages related to rare earths and other critical minerals, including yttrium, scandium, neodymium, and indium.
All my favorite eons.
Those sounded like mean things I would say to somebody.
Yeah.
So
Or things I would buy at Bonnaroo from some guy.
with an orange backpack. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've talked about this, of course, on the show, and the rare earth stuff is not just for AI companies. It's for airplanes and control systems and missile defense systems that our military uses. Whether you like it or not, the Pentagon needs it. We spend money on it. We stockpile these things in case we make a war of choice, okay? This is like how things work. It doesn't matter.
This batch of indium right here, the Pentagon needs it, dude.
They need it, man.
$20.
And so China dominates the supply chain of these things, not just the mining, but the processing of it, because in America, we don't want to get our hands dirty with things that end in imium. So we don't have the skill set to process it like China does. The promise to address the concerns is, again, not a commitment. It's maybe we'll talk about it. We'll chit-chat about it. And if you wanted to actually get something done, you would have them say, all right, China will ship X amount of indium to the United States for this price, and we'll deliver it on this schedule. None of that happened. You could even, I would even be happy, and this is more of a metaphorical happy because I'm not happy ever, okay, at this point, that you could even just say it in the press release or in the fact sheet. This is what she said he would do. She said, he said.
It's a real he said, she said. Let's go. I was about to go there. You beat me to it.
So, and there's another way to look at this because we obviously have export controls on different things that we'll get to in a second here, but China has export controls on these items. And China has tightened export controls on neodymium and other rare earths just recently. Again, they don't need to say anything. Their actions speak volumes. And so the White House framed this as a win, like Beijing conceded something, when in fact, they literally, absolutely, 100% in reality did the exact opposite.
Incredible. Now that's a win.
That's a win.
Because it's opposite day, and you're saying it's not a win, it's a win. That's how that works.
Okay, Boeing. This is another big thing leading up to it. China approved an initial purchase of 200 American-made Boeing aircraft for Chinese airlines. This tranche of aircraft, China's first commitment to purchase American-made Boeing aircraft since 2017, while drive high-paying, high-skilled U.S. manufacturing jobs and enable the Chinese people to fly on American-made planes for decades to come. This is great. And Trump announced this on his official platform, Fox Business. And of course, if it comes true, this would be a huge deal, though. Here's the thing. The expectation was it was going to be 300 to 500 airplanes. And so if you know anything about Wall Street expectations, when you miss the expectations, that's not a good thing, and then the stock takes a hit. Normally, though, when two people do a deal on something, one person announces and the other one says, yeah, we did that as well. Trump announced the Boeing deal. Mm-hmm. And you know what she did?
He said, she said.
But she said nothing.
Oh, wait, what?
She said absolutely. Like, this is so now. All I can imagine is SHE now. But she said President Xi said nothing, and so China let Trump make himself feel good by announcing it. But China now holds all the cards about implementing the deal. So Trump has to come to the table, or China could say, well, we'll order. Maybe we don't want them now. Maybe we want them later, but you got to do this to them or that to them. Now China holds all the leverage because Trump's going to look like an idiot if he doesn't deliver on these things, which, by the way, here's another secret. Yeah. He's not going to deliver. Oh. It's not going to happen.
What about the art of the deal, where you give your negotiating team nothing and you give the other side everything?
Bold prediction: by the end of his administration, there will have been maybe 50 purchase orders of Boeing planes.
Wow. Woof. Damn. So it's supposed to be 500. They might get 50. That's like aiming for the trees and hitting the fence.
That was the main facts of the fact sheet. But you know what we also look at, Travis, is not just what facts they included, but what facts they did not include. So I don't know if you know, Trump didn't go alone. He went with Rubio and Greer, and I think Bessent maybe went as well. But also,
I saw Elon Musk was in there somewhere.
Jensen Huang and Elon Musk, CEO of NVIDIA, and Elon the dog Musk.
Does anyone actually call him that?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It's a fact. You know what? I'm gonna say it's a fact that people call him that.
That's a fact. Put it on the fact sheet. Now
put it on the fact sheet. Print it. What was not in the press release was that NVIDIA is going to be selling H200 chips to China. And so this is a big deal. This is their second most advanced chip. And for years, we've had export controls on them. But if you noticed in the previous deals that Trump has done with China when it came to negotiating on tariffs, he always relaxed these export controls. And companies like Alibaba, Tencent, ByteDance are going to be able to use this now, and they're going to be able to build their AI models on top of it. And of course, the Chinese government could grab these chips and do what they want. Look, I get where this is coming from. You want NVIDIA to make money. They're a big company. If you cede control of it, that could be bad in some way. And we'll get to a clip of Jensen Huang talking about it. But the thing that I want to tell everyone, which is so wildly interesting to me, is that purchase orders have been made, but Beijing has said, we don't want them yet. Don't send them yet, because they have asked their domestic industry to make their own chipsets, to make their own chips. And they want to nationalize because they know they don't want to depend on American chips. So one thing to keep in mind is that China, they don't make as advanced chips that use energy very efficiently, but they make cheaper ones, and they have a ton of energy because they're like the biggest solar power in the world and all this stuff. So what they lack in the ingenuity to make a smaller chip more efficient, they make up for that by having way more chips and more energy. And so the question is, how many of these things, like the Boeing airplanes, are going to actually be delivered? And for some more context, I want to play a quick clip from the Dwarkish podcast. Dwarkish is this very smart guy, and it's a very technical podcast at times, but he interviewed Jensen Huang. And I just want to give you a quick little context because I think it's important to understand how all this AI stuff works, because whether you hate it or love it, it will affect your life. And it's important to know what the kind of economic structure is of it, because again, it's every part of our life will be impacted by it. So Huang describes the whole industry as like a cake with 5 layers. So the bottom layer is energy. The second layer is chips. The third layer is networking, right? So how those chips all speak to each other, because a lot of times they just get a bunch of chips and network them together. And that's what powers the next layer, which is the models, right? And those models need a bunch of chips networked together that need a lot of energy. And what do people build on top of those models? Applications. So it is a multi-layered tiramisu plus 2 cake of technology.
Right. So don't eat it, is what you're saying.
Oh, buddy, we're eating it.
Okay.
We are definitely
I also love to eat chips, so there you go.
Yeah.
And I just want you to acknowledge that any marginal sales for American technology industry is beneficial.
I actually don't. I mean, if the AI models that run on those chips are capable of cyber offensive capabilities, or training models, running more models of those instances, it is not a nuclear weapon, but it enables a weapon of a kind.
The logic that you use, you might as well say it to microprocessors and DRAMs. You might as well say it to electricity.
But in fact, we do have export controls on the technology that is relevant to making the most advanced DRAM, right? We have all kinds of export controls on China for all kinds of chip making stuff.
We sell a lot of DRAM and CPUs into China, and I think it's right.
I guess this goes back to the fundamental question of, is AI different, right? If you have the kind of technology that can find these 0 days in software, is that something where we want to minimize China's ability to get there first.
We want
to
the United
deploy it
States
widely.
to be ahead. We can control that.
How do we control that if the chips are already there and they're using that to train that model?
We have tons of compute. We have tons of AI researchers. We're racing as fast as we can.
Again, we have more nuclear weapons than anybody else, but we don't want to send enriched uranium anywhere.
We're not enriched uranium. It's a chip. And it's a chip that they can make themselves.
First, Travis, did that make sense to you?
I feel like I just watched two nerds try to fight in the lunchroom. What is happening? Where are the jocks? Just start knocking each other around, boys. I don't understand.
I should have been repping a dumbbell during that clip.
Two laptops. That's what you had to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, what did we just witness there? It's clearly two very smart guys trying to make a point about something.
What Dwarkish was saying was, listen, these things are so powerful. They're the most advanced in the world. And when we talk about how countries are advancing in AI, we talk about it not in decades or years. We talk about it in months, because everyone's sprinting to this weird artificial general intelligence, like Terminator level intelligence. And that apparently is some weird finish line for everyone. And really, we're talking about China is 3 to 6 months behind the United States. That's it. And so the presumption is, if we give them the most advanced chips, could their models, right, their chat GPTs, or for them it's DeepSeek, could they grow and be better than Claude or chat GPT or Gemini here in America? And if they're better, which there was just a thing from Anthropic that makes Claude, they have their new model. Apparently it's very dangerous. So dangerous, they didn't release it, and they alerted the government and other companies about it, and they said, this thing just found bugs in software that no one's has seen in 20 years. And so this is what he's asking about. And he's saying, well, aren't you just giving them the most advanced weaponry to create the most advanced weapon systems? And what I find interesting is Jensen Huang is saying, well, if we don't do that, then we don't have our hooks in China. And as long as we have our hooks in China, they can depend on our products, which means we're ahead. And I think that is flawed, because they can make their own stuff in their own way, and they can still buy our stuff. And so I don't know. I'm actually very interested to hear what our fans have to think about it, because how do we do business? Is this like electricity? Is it so common? Do we need to be constantly making these deals with countries that we don't necessarily have the best relations with? And here's another thing to think about, Travis.
I've got so many things to think about.
If these things end up being like open source and everything, right, which means like they're public, they're not necessarily tied to a country, what's to stop an ISIS? They could get one of these models and create havoc amongst countries. They could go and make a false flag operation and just say, and try to create a situation where China is going to attack the United States, or the United States is going to attack China, or something like that. Why wouldn't that be the case? Why wouldn't that be something that a very vile organization, or one that just has their own agenda, would do? This is the thing that I think not enough people are talking about, because they think about, oh, what is China going to do? What is the United States going to do? What is just some random dude going to be able to do?
Yeah, hopefully he starts a podcast and they argue about it.
Exactly. We've gone on very long, but just very last thing, they didn't mention Taiwan at all. And we've got this big deal of arms that are supposed to go to Taiwan, and we didn't do anything about that. We didn't say anything about it. They didn't say anything about the fact sheet. The thing that she did say, and they made sure that the American journalists heard this, she told Trump that if Washington mishandles the Taiwan issue, they said, quote, the two countries will have clashes and even conflicts, putting the entire relationship in great jeopardy. So that was published. Think about all the things that Beijing said and didn't say. And this is one of the things that Beijing's own foreign ministry spokesperson said.
Wow. Made a point to say it.
Bro. And they also says, like, Taiwan independence, quote, not compatible with peace along the Taiwan Strait. And they've been always pushing, the United States official position is we don't support Taiwanese independence. We are okay with the one China policy. But what China wants the United States to say is we oppose Taiwanese independence. Talk about complexity. Hold that in your pipe and smoke it.
I'll see if that guy at Bonnaroo's got any.
Yeah. All right. On that note, what a beefy A block. Sorry. A lot of facts. This is what Trump does. He makes a lot of lies, and then we take 40 minutes to break them all down.
Totally fair analysis. It's not a fact sheet without any facts.
Yeah. All right, guys. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we've got some more stories for you. This is the Foreign Report. That's Travis in the virtual studio. I'm Seena. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Foreign Report. I'm Seena Ghaznavi, Travis Irvine in the virtual studio. In this segment, we're going to talk about a Ukraine war update, the UK and EU's relationship, and then a quick thing from Uganda. All right, so let's dive in. Woof, that last segment was beefy. I'm just still shook from all the lies that we had to had to dunk on.
I can't believe that fact sheet was mostly just a pile of sheet. Okay, thanks so much.
She even said it was sheet. So Ukraine war, just recently, more than 500 drone strikes hit Russia, killing 3. U.S. has allowed Russian oil sanctions waived, and those have lapsed. So those are back on, apparently, okay? So that's something to keep in mind. The Ukrainian attack was in response to an earlier Russian strike on Kiev that killed 24. So this is, we're cheering for the Ukrainians here at the end of the day. And but the thing that I also thought was really funny that happened recently was Putin wanted to do a Victory Day parade in Moscow. And Zelensky trolled Putin. And this came up, and I didn't really clock it. I just thought that was weird. He signed an official declaration that said that he allowed the Russians to hold their Victory Day parade, that they would not strike Moscow during the parade.
Gotcha, right?
And so, right, it's not like a funny joke to us, right? But this apparently, for the people of Ukraine and Russia, was hilarious or embarrassing if you're in the Russian government. So this is like one of those weird cultural, contextual things where the humor is so dry, you don't think it's even a joke, but it's like this is a joke. I mean, he's a comedian, and it's more like you could do it. I give you permission. It was kind of like that, but he did it in an official decree, and Putin was wildly embarrassed. So embarrassing.
What? That's crazy.
Yeah.
I guess in war between two humorless countries, everything's funny.
So Trump has not renewed the waiver of the sanctions on Russia. So they were making a bunch of money on the oil from that was spiking in price. We'll see if that gets waived again soon. All right. Next story. We talked a little bit about the elections that happened in the United Kingdom. Boy, we've got some results. Labour lost over 1,100 council seats.
Yikes. That's so many.
That's a lot of council seats.
In British football, we call that a drubbing.
A drubbing.
Oh, it's a drubbing. Labour is down.
Reform, kind of like the MAGA people, if you will, picked up 1,400 seats. Of the total, Reform got 26%, Green got 18%, with Labour and the Conservatives both getting 17%. Yo, that's crazy.
That's a drubbing, dude. That's a full-on drubbing.
And the government's led by the Labour Party right now. And these are the local elections.
Right.
And everyone is talking about how Keir Starmer should not be in office anymore. And he just lost his health secretary who left and was just like, I would support a challenge. Back in 2024, when Starmer became PM, he promised to, quote, reset the UK's relationship with the European Union. And so after this last election, he said, quote, incremental change won't cut it. We need a bigger response than we anticipated in 2024 because these are not ordinary times. So I think he's going to try to undo Brexit, but you're not going to be able to do that.
Yeah, you can't put that toothpaste back in the tube.
Yeah, there's two people that are challenging him potentially to be leader of the party. Wes Streeting, one of the challengers, called Brexit a catastrophic mistake. You know, most economists apparently agree that the UK lost like 6 to 8% of their GDP because of Brexit. Wow. That's crazy.
That's so much money, dude. It's just gone. What?
And it's not. They made all these new deals and all this stuff, so it's not. You can't just Command Z this thing. You know, right. There's no undo button. You know, and like and all the EU wants is basically the UK to come back, but you got to follow the EU rules.
Right.
So that's not gonna. That's a mess. That's an absolute mess.
That's an absolute mess. And was the guy Nigel Farage? He was behind Brexit, right?
Yes, and he's the reform guy.
So Brexit was a disaster. He was a vocal supporter of Brexit. Some people I remember even Trump, back when it happened, credited Nigel Farage for making it happen. And now that it is turned out to be a mess, you're telling me one of the most successful politicians in England right now is Nigel Farage and his party?
Yeah, man. I don't get it. I remember we were talking about how cool the parliamentary system would be here. I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know how I feel anymore.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah. I mean, it's all, this is a very British phrase, but it's all sixes and sevens, baby. And I don't mean like the fun meme that all the kids are doing on the internet. Yeah. It is just very confusing.
It's very confusing. I mean, that is a lot. What are our British, English, and what are the UK people that listen to this show?
Yeah, let us know.
What is going on?
What's happening in your local council?
I feel like I need an entire class on how that country works politically sometimes. Yeah, I do really appreciate.
Just watch English soccer with me, and
there we go. Yeah, there we go. I'm sure that's exactly what all of our English fans would love to do.
Absolutely. Arsenal's going to win the league, baby. Let's go.
But I do like, however, that they scream at each other in Parliament.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Well, they also just yell at each other.
Oh, it's wonderful. They've done that for centuries.
Instead of here, like, my gentle friend from South Carolina. When really you mean that boy from South Carolina.
Right. Hey, you don't say that about Lindsey Graham.
I wasn't talking about Lindsey Graham. I was talking about my dear friend from South Carolina.
Oh, right. He's a nice guy.
All right. Last story before we go take a break and get to the JD Vance section. This kind of was a weird story out of Uganda because I think it exemplifies what the current state of both global capitalism is and nationalism. So this week, the Ugandan president, Yoweri Museveni, signed into law the Protection of Sovereignty Bill, which does a few very, sane and reasonable things, I would think. It criminalizes the promotion of, quote, the interest of a foreigner against the interest of Uganda. Okay, makes sense. It requires that foreign agents to formally register with the government. We have that here. It bars those foreign agent individuals or organizations from participating in the development or implementation of national policy without state approval. Okay. It's like Uganda first without all the weird racism that we have here. So this is, a good thing, right?
You would think so. Sounds like it, but I think you're about to say something else.
Well, this is what's so confusing about it. According to Reuters, central bank director Michael Atinji Ego called the new law a, quote, economic disaster for Uganda, and the World Bank warned that, quote, the law could affect sectors heavily dependent on foreign partnerships, including banking, infrastructure, agriculture, mining, and non-governmental development programs. So the punishment, if you violate it in Uganda, is 10 years in prison. If you violate the U.S. laws, for just failing to register, you can get up to 5 years in prison and $250,000 in fines. But I think the thing that I find strange to think about here is Uganda's obviously had a lot of foreign influence problems over the last, however many years, for so long. And they said, listen, we don't want it anymore. And so a big financial institution looks at a country and they say, oh, this is a strong country. We want to invest. But if they do something like this, they're like, are you too strong? Because if you're too strong, then you won't let us take resources and money and make you into a creditor-debtor relationship with us.
I see.
Right? I feel like that's what's so difficult. So I think this is good for them, but it also, they would still need some way to keep their economy moving, whether that's through internal self-sustaining methods or getting other countries to help them out. I mean, look, the United States pulled out of Africa completely. China came in and didn't do the creditor-debtor thing. They just said, we'll build you a soccer stadium. We'll build you a system of roadways. We'll build you all this infrastructure. Just give us all your rare earth. Just give us all this other stuff. And that's like a transaction. That's not like a weird long-term subordinate relationship type thing.
Right. Yeah. So basically the World Bank came in and said, Uganda too far.
Oh, my God.
I'm sitting on that one since you started talking.
All right. Man, what a beefy, lot of stories today.
Oof, around the world and back again.
Lot happening. Let's take a quick break, Travis. And when we come back, we're going to talk about JD Vance. Welcome back to the Foreign Report. I'm Seena Ghaznavi. With us is Travis Irvine in the virtual studio. And you know, folks, we've reached the end of the show, and that means only one thing.
Give him a chance, it's JD Vance. No, wait, he sucks.
Club remix, ladies and gentlemen. We just went all around the world there, Seena. Yeah. This is a beefy show all around the world. You didn't know? You know who didn't leave the country? You know who didn't go around the world this week?
I think you're going to tell me.
Yeah, that's JD Vance, everybody.
Oh, man. Yeah. He stayed home? They kept him at home?
They stayed home, man. They didn't want him accidentally killing a pope or causing some disruption somewhere. It's comical, again, but this is, as we've learned on this show, par for the course now, to leave JD Vance out. JDV, you leave him at home if you want things to even remotely go right. Of course, according to the fact sheet, our fact check on the fact sheet, nothing went right anyway in China. So this is some fun things that have been happening. By the way, the so-called 2028 race between Marco Rubio and JD Vance, obviously, this whole China trip is a part of it. Marco was on the plane. He was in the room making big statements, making big decisions. Even if the decisions didn't lead to anything concrete, he was still there, right? And this is actually kind of fun. It is not lost in JD. He has noticed, I don't know if you saw this in your algorithm, but Trump actually opined to a group at the Rose Garden out loud as if he's running a reality TV show. He said, who would you like in 2028, Marco or JD?
Oh, my God.
And he gauged the audience. Yes, he's already, again.
I was just going to say, it's definitely going to be Marco. Like, JD's probably still going to run, but it's like Marco's going to he's going to take it.
Well, and this is the funny thing is that Trump used to be on a reality TV show where he did this exact type of thing. It's called The Apprentice. And JD Vance, it is not lost on him. He actually invoked and talked about The Apprentice, saying this is basically like The Apprentice. And he knows, he understands what's at stake right now is that he is basically living in a reality TV show. So it's not lost in JD what's happening. But don't worry, Seena. He's going to still make the most of whatever big job he has been given. And you want to know what that big job was?
What's that?
For this past week? He is being left at home to root out fraud, waste, and abuse in Medicaid and Medicare programs.
Oh, God.
Yeah, dude. Because this is red meat for the Trump base. They, you remember all the stuff we covered with the Somali communities in Minnesota and everything. The Trump MAGA base is convinced that there is just millions and millions of taxpayer dollars just being shat out by the federal government to all these welfare queens who are basically scamming and skimming as much as they can from the system. All right? So JD's on the case. Let's play a clip of JD Vance. It's not from China. It's not from Uganda. It's not from Ukraine. It's not from the Vatican. They sent him to Bangor, Maine. And this is a banger clip from Bangor, Maine from our boy JD, sent to do an important job. Let's see how he's doing.
When the President of the United States said, JD, we've got a fraud problem and I want you to tackle it, I was so proud and so happy to be able to do it because I realized...
Pause right there. Pause. That's a lie. That's a lie. I can't believe I'm being asked to do this, but I guess I have to. Okay, keep playing.
saving money. It's not just about protecting taxpayers, it's about protecting you. The money is sent to the government and the services that you rely on. So for once, for the first time in a very long time, you've got an administration in Washington, D.C. that is fighting for you, fighting to protect your tax dollars, and fighting to put the fraudsters in prison, which is where they've...
Oh, he invoked my show. He invokes fraudsters.
Yes.
This is
Right.
terrible.
That's what I first of all, we all know JD listens to this show and your other fantastic show on the network, Fraudsters, all the time. We know that. So he is trying to steal from the best to make his pitch to the MAGA base. And again, checking my notes, Bangor, Maine. That's where they sent him to do this. All right, go continue.
Oh, this guy is cooked, man.
Red meat for the day.
And we're going to talk about that because everybody asked me. The president asked me. I hear from people all the time who say, is going after fraud hard? And I say, unfortunately, no, because there is a lot of fraud in the federal government. It's like fishing in...
Well, it's funny when people say, is it hard to find the episodes? And I say no, because there's a lot of fraud, because JD Vance is a fraud. We could do an entire season about how he's not a hillbilly.
He's not a hillbilly. His name's not JD Vance. The list goes on and on, by the way.
There is always something. Every week, I get a report from these guys, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But it's unbelievable how much you have been fleeced by your own government over the past 15, 20, 30 years. Nobody was looking at this. Nobody was asking...
Who's looking at the trades on Polymarket, or who's looking at the short positions on the oil markets? Who's looking at that when they happen minutes before a presidential announcement?
Well, definitely not JD. He's too busy looking at Medicaid fraud in blue states. Go ahead, please.
Difficult questions like, for example, are dead people getting food stamps? Okay? Call me old-fashioned, but I don't think that dead people eat, so certainly they don't need food stamps. Unfortunately, they vote for Democrats. They don't vote for us, my friends.
Oh, God.
Oh, that's fun. Isn't that fun? Isn't he so fun? By the way, food stamps saved his mom's life. So anyway.
No big deal. Saved his mom's life. Yeah, no big deal.
But why is it that we have people who are driving Lamborghinis? And that is true. People driving Lamborghinis who are getting low-income assistance that's supposed to go...
I will say you could go to Glendale and you see that. I would just...
and I was only going to say that I do remember a specific episode of like MTV Cribs with had Old Dirty Bastard, and he roll up in a limo to get his welfare check, and it's awesome. But he's definitely dead, and he's definitely not getting food stamps anymore. So
and also the corporate tax system allows you to do that.
Yes.
If you learned this in law school, take corporations class, you could basically have a zero income and get assistance, and you could have all the money going through your various corporations, and that's how that works, folks.
Yes.
That's America.
Yes, the white collar crime is 1,000 times worse and more profitable than anything the poor blue collars and low income folks could do with government money. But go ahead, continue, JD, please.
Well said. For housing and food for our people. Why is it that we have people in hospice claiming hospice benefits, but who have no terminal illnesses? And by the way, here's the crazy thing. It's very often, it's not a person who's even using their own identity. They're claiming that somebody else, they're stealing somebody else's identity, claiming hospice services. And then when that hardworking American goes to apply for some other benefit, they get tagged by the bank as being a fraudster, even though it wasn't them. It was somebody who stole their identity.
This is bad for my show. He keeps saying the show name, and it's going to pop up.
All right, I've taken all I can take. Let me put this is my little cherry on this Mesopotamia of a cake here. You can pull down the clip. I can't even handle it anymore. So what is he's referencing right now, Seena, is this right-wing outlet published a big story. It was based out of Ohio, specifically my hometown, Columbus, Ohio, in Franklin County, saying that the $250 million of fraud money, taxpayer money, stolen by hospice caretakers who weren't really hospice caretakers or taking care of anyone in hospice. Here's the thing. We have no way to confirm this, but even if it were true, Seena, do you know who runs the state of Ohio? Republicans. JD Vance is from the state of Ohio. He was senator from the state of Ohio. The state of Ohio is a deeply Republican state. So what's happened now, and I had to listen to it on our local NPR station this morning, is Republicans are now fighting about this fraud that we don't even know if it exists or not. But the federal government is saying, you've got fraud going on there. And then the Republicans in the state house, like Mike DeWine and all these other guys, are now fighting with each other about how to handle a fraud that we don't even know if it's true.
Because if it is true, the Republicans and JD Vance let it happen on their watch.
Exactly.
And if it isn't true, the Republicans and JD Vance let it happen on their watch.
Yeah, exactly. Or they're just liars. It's completely reminiscent of back in 2024 when JD went on TV and Trump went on TV and said that Haitian immigrants were eating cats and dogs here in Springfield, Ohio.
Yeah.
And again, Republicans like Mike DeWine had to basically go up against these other Republicans and be like, that's not true. That's not happening. We have no evidence of it. And this is, again, the dilemma that happens when a completely unqualified man with no juice is the vice president of the United States. He's just making problems for his own people. So if this is an episode of The Apprentice, man, I'm taking that good-looking guy from Florida any day for 2028, man. Let him lose to whatever Democrat runs.
Yikes. That is crazy. Thank you for that. I mean, it is good. I get the clips you send me on JD Vance, and I feel like I don't look at anything else when it comes to JD.
Sure. Why would you? You respect yourself. Yeah. But
that
it is
was
funny.
really good.
It's like you said, fraudsters are everywhere, but man, oh man, they sure are in the government. Republicans say they're in the government, and then they go in there and they prove it. So there you go.
I love how a Republican vice president was like, yeah, this Ohio fraud is happening. It's their problem. And it's like all these Republicans in Ohio would be like, wait a minute.
They run everything here, dude. It's just like, these are your people. The call is coming from inside the house.
That's one of my favorite JD Vance quarters yet. That was great. That was great. And you were disgusted by it. So I think that's something to think about as well.
I need to go take a shower. I'm sweating like JD Vance in IKEA over here. Come on, folks.
All right, guys, that's the show. Make sure you sign up for our newsletter. We do kind of like an In Case You Missed It, where we break down all the stories or most of the stories, and we give you links to the articles so you guys can stay informed. And producer Danielle does an amazing job with that. Follow us on all the socials. I was on Side Stories a couple weeks ago.
You did great. Everyone loved you.
Thank you. I did not read the comments, but some of them I did not read, and they did not say nice things. And I just have to say, you can't please everybody, but I am happy that I pleased some people. Mm-hmm. And we got some new people that are following the show now, which I really appreciate. If that's one of you, thank you for coming on board. We try to do our best with how crazy the world is. And you guys are learning with us. So I mean that from the bottom, my bottom.
But this show was tippy top, and that's what we will continue to do.
Hell yeah, man. All right, guys. We'll see you next time.